Hello, everyone. Welcome to 47 Cast. My name is Lashazior. Uh, my co-host inkblowout is unfortunately having some issues. Well, not really issues. He's just got some obligations regarding personal stuff. So I'm going to be doing this solo today. In our last podcast, we covered a little bit about Hitman 2 and who we are as far as that kind of stuff. Um, we're just here to do something for community that no one's ever really done. So we actually have a special guest on today, because we plan on doing interviews and stuff. Special guest, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us who you are?
Hello there. I'm Kotti. I'm just some random nerd who plays way too much Hitman and does speedruns and various small projects related to Hitman, I guess.
All right, Kotti. Just a real quick question: how did you really get into Hitman? Like, what's your full history on all that?
I guess like 2003, I borrowed a copy of Hitman 2 from somebody, the original Hitman 2, the real Hitman 2, and likely enough to pick up a second-hand copy of Contracts from somewhere, and like that enough to eventually get Blood Money at launch. And I don't think I've uninstalled Blood Money since.
Yeah, you definitely love that blood money. Would you say that's probably your favorite Hitman game at this point?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, it's pretty much that game's pretty awesome. I remember playing it back in the day. I can't really play it now because it's just the controls are so different from all the other Hitman games. It's so hard to go back into it. I mean, as far as like your history and all that, what you said you picked up Hitman 2 back in the day. Did you just kind of just decide to borrow it? Like, was it something you really wanted to try out, or was it just a game that was like, hey, see this? And
I knew nothing about it at the time. It's like, oh, this cover looks more interesting than anything else I'm seeing at the moment, so I picked that up, and
yeah,
it
that's
was enjoyable enough, even though I was probably horrible at it. Can't remember anything about my first playthrough.
yeah, that's kind of how my situation was too. I was the same like you. I had a buddy of mine that had Hitman 2, and that's kind of how I got into it. He was just like, "Hey, play this game. It's really good." And then contracts came out, and they blood money. And then, of course, later on, you had Absolution, Hitman 2016, but you left those out. As far as like the newer games, what are your thoughts on like Hitman 2016? I guess
I don't even know where to
casual
begin.
stuff. That is pretty big rabbit hole, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I guess I like it, but at the same time, I really, really hate certain aspects of it and uh, how things changed throughout the season.
hmm What are like some
But
of the specific things that you just really hate about it, even from like a casual standpoint?
I mean, well, one thing that immediately I can think of is the rating system. I think the rating system in that game is absolute junk. It's far too binary, and it punishes especially newer players way too harshly.
hmm
And the what I think is a funny thing about that is that like a week after Paris came out in 2016, someone from IO emailed me asking like, "Hey, you seem pretty good at this. You seem like you're pretty good at this game. What are your thoughts on the ratings and that sort of thing?" And on that moment, I was able to say that the rating system is way too binary, and it still is way too binary. So, boy, am I glad I gave that feedback.
They had an AMA yesterday. The rating system is apparently going to be the same in Hitman 2.
Oh yeah, I heard about that, and I was pretty annoyed because at Gamescom when I was able to talk with some of them, I can't say who it was. I can't even remember the exact moment when that was brought up because that was like what 2 months ago or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But I actually had to go back to my own video from Gamescom because I made that like as soon as possible when everything was fresh in my mind. I was like, yeah, at some point it was brought up that the rating system would be changed. Guess not.
um, so as far as like the other stuff, because like you just talking about that Hitman 2016 and what you said, you're a speedrunner, obviously, and you're one of the people I got into speedrunning. How did you get into speedrunning?
I don't know how I got into speedrunning originally. In general, that goes back probably longer than me being into Hitman goes. But
Yes.
as far as my first runs, I remember that when Blood Money came out, there was this dude called Shat47 who had
Hmm.
like, I mean, he was one of the only runners who did anything in Blood Money at the time. And I saw some of his runs, and I guess I just liked the idea of doing missions in different ways really quickly. And eventually I started doing something like that on my own.
Hmm.
And at some point I was accidentally able to figure out a completely different route from his that beat his record route in a new life by like 3 seconds or something.
Um,
And then I just kept going from there because it was fucking amazing.
Speaking of that, how do you feel about how the community's kind of changed over the years as far as like speedrunning point? Seems like in the early days there was like some really really great runners. And some of these records stood for a really long time. And then like lately in the past like 2 3 years, whenever all this Twitch stream, it seems like a lot of these runs have just been really really crazy fast. They're at the point now where it's just like they're just ridiculous at this point.
I think the core of Hitman speedrunning is still the same, which is at least to me, it's not all about just go really really fast. Although I guess back in the day that was even more the focus than it is now.
Hmm.
But also just go fast and somehow make it interesting. Like, well, for Hitman, Silent Assassin is pretty much always going to be the thing you go for, no matter what kind of run you do. But
Yeah.
these days, especially, I like how people try to mix that up, like Silent Assassin, but using some really stupid method, and all that sort of thing. I think is great. I guess the biggest change is that these days, especially with the older games, people tend to do full game runs rather than individual levels, which is fine. Just it's a different beast. I
Yeah.
remember when I don't know what it was like 2011 or something. Back then there were no full game runs, and it actually started off when I told a friend of mine who probably still has the record for Curtains Down, MSQRT. I said as a joke like, "Hey, we should do a full game run of this game," and we just both knew it was a joke because who the fuck would do that? That's insane. It's completely impossible.
Yeah,
And then I
pretty
just
much.
started looking into routes that are actually viable. And I feel like that kind of started the whole doing full game runs of Hitman, which is neat.
Um, I guess we'll just kind of move on a little bit from speedrun aspect to kind of talk about your early opinions on Hitman 2. We already discussed how you don't like the rating system at all. You think it's chains down new players and it's just a little too binary. Um, Other than that, how do you feel about like say the new maps?
Uh, I'd rather not speculate too much on the new map since all we really have is one trailer for most of them that shows like maybe 10 seconds of each.
Hmm.
That's not really a lot to go by. All I can really say with some sort of certainty is that I think what's it called? Santa Fortuna. That's visually nice. I like that a lot. I thought it could have ended up being really boring and ugly like the Columbia levels from Codename 47, especially what's the last one called? Say hello to my little friend. I think
Yeah.
that's a really
Hmm.
ugly looking level. I'm glad Santa Fortuna isn't like that. And Mumbai is the complete opposite. I think that looks it actually looks unpleasing. It reminds me of Marrakesh. I just don't like the visual style. But hey, maybe I'm wrong on both of those. Who knows?
Um, are you aware of the new items that they've been adding into the games as well?
Some of them,
Like
like
the briefcase is back, of course. I don't know if you really care about that too much, but I know a lot of people really, really want the briefcase back. There's also an explosive pin, which I imagine that's probably going to be your favorite item to use. Because if anybody doesn't know, Kotti really loves explosives.
Uh, I guess it remains to be seen, like how exactly those play out. I did play with the briefcase a bit at Gamescom, and it's all right. It's nothing revolutionary, but it fits
Is it
in, I
is
think.
it true that the sniper rifle doesn't come out or doesn't get taken off, uh, detached, disassembled? It's just kind of a weird animation they do with the briefcase.
I think that's what they said at the AMA. Yeah,
Yeah.
and at Gamescom it definitely didn't have any animation.
um, is there anything else about Hitman 2 you wanted to talk about specifically?
Specifically, oh, off the top of my head, I don't know. Um, skip that for now.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
I
it'll
guess
come
we
to
could
me.
I guess we could talk about your specific thoughts on like say IO Interactive, how they've been handling this situation with the leveraged buyout, uh getting back the IP from Square Enix. Because this is going to be the first game since Blood Money that isn't published by Square Enix, and how you feel about like how they have to do all the layoffs and all that kind of stuff, and what you feel about the future of IO is.
I could not tell you anything about that because one thing I can say is that it really does bug me how you know how people complain about stuff like always online in Hitman
Yeah,
or episodic release. That's a much better example actually. And it seems like when it was when this whole thing happened that IO became went independent, the people who hated the episodic stuff were like, "Hell yeah, we're getting rid of Square Enix. It's not going to be episodic anymore." They made that happen. Those devils, and the people who liked the episodic stuff were like, "I hope it's still going to be episodic. That was all IO's idea." I don't know what was going on in the background. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on in the background. And it does bug me how people like claim to know these things. Like, what's the point?
I don't know. But yeah, like I'm just kind of worried about the IP standpoint. Is like they hired Sean Bean to do all this stuff, and they're really pushing the market. The publisher this time is Warner Brothers Interactive, and I was talking about Ink in the last podcast about that. Warner Brothers is the one that's been doing all the Lego stuff, the Batman Arkham Knight series, and all that kind of junk. So I I just wonder how much of that marketing is actually gonna give them returns. That's my issue with it. I don't know if you
Yeah,
feel.
I noticed they push it a lot more than I expected. Like even at Gamescom, where the game wasn't playable publicly, it was just in the business area, and they still had a massive banner on the side of the building. It's like it was like the first thing you see of the entire Gamescom. And
Just
you
a
can't. And
gigantic
if you
banner.
yeah, and if you're going there as a random audience member, you don't even get to play the game. So it was a bit of a surprise there that they're pushing it so hard.
Yeah, it's just pretty crazy because like I said, when we first got into Hitman, it was just one of those niche titles that it just looks cool. There wasn't that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I guess we could talk a little bit more about Hitman 2. Besides the maps and stuff, they are releasing the old maps into the new game and updating them again. Uh, I don't know how you really feel about that because to me, it just seems like, yeah, it's cool that we get to replay the maps, but it's like the third time that they've done this now, right?
What do you mean third time?
The
I mean,
remaster because they had the first when the maps came out in the episodic releases, and then they did it for the game of the year uh thing, and then now they're redoing the old maps, Paris and stuff. It's gonna be in the new game.
oh, but those previous ones they didn't. change anything. It was just like, hey, let's release the same product under a slightly different title.
Oh, I thought they were adding some new stuff as far as not like in the actual maps, but like updating the crowd textures and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that's probably happened throughout the season slightly.
Yeah,
But
but
like,
yeah.
I'm glad they're adding the old maps to the new game. I think that's the way it should be done.
Hmm.
But it also feels like they're wasting the opportunity to improve those maps. Like, sure, they say stuff like, "We're adding some shrubbery." Like, great, that's nice, but this is also a great opportunity to just fix some things that people have been saying that could be improved
Head
for a long time now.
turning, head turning. I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's a mechanical thing, not a map thing. But and they seem to have done something about it, so props for that. Uh, but stuff like, well, one thing that I asked about Gamescom, and my impression was that firmly yes, they would add starting locations to Basin Zero missions and just bonus missions. And now, yesterday in the AMA, they said no, they are not doing that. So
Hmm.
I'm giving a mean look to certain someone at IO, and I will keep bringing this up for a while because I feel like those maps really, really need starting locations, and not having them is a huge missed opportunity. And they could have done stuff like, hell, what do I know? Maybe they do it. I highly doubt it. But Colorado, the exit is one of the reasons why that map is so, or the mission
Oh yeah.
is so bad. Like, all right, just make it so that you need to complete the mission once so that you exit through the storm shelter, and after that you can just use any of the exits, and immediately that mission becomes much much better.
Um. So I guess we're just kind of talking about how like we want to like you talk about how you just want IO to change stuff. Is there anything in the entire Hitman universe, like any game, that if you could go back, that you would change something about it? It could be any game, it could be any mechanic, it could be an entire new thing. Like if you were going to design the ultimate stealth, what would be something that you would want it?
Oh, oh boy.
Yeah.
I think one thing I've been slightly dreaming of, like, if we could just slightly mod Blood Money, just fix up some of the minor issues in the rating system, we could really improve that game. Do minor changes, like instead of having two poison syringes, only give one, but make it count as an accident like it does in 2016,
Hmm.
and fix minor inconvenience. No, I can't call it inconvenience, but bugs. Like your own suit in Blood Money doesn't count as a disguise, so you can just get shot a million times and get Sound Assassin. Like, perhaps change stuff like that.
Just
I
make it
like it. I
slightly more realistic.
mean, it's kind of an obvious oversight. Like, fix small things like that. I do enjoy it for this from the speedrunning standpoint, but at the same time, it is a bit stupid. Not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Yeah, that's kind of also just my complaint. I just I feel like the ratings across the games was never entirely thought out. They just kind of threw up some kind of like parameter. Just like, hey, let's roll with it, guys.
Yeah,
Because
I think they were
it's
actually pretty close with Blood Money, like close to a really good system. They just
it's just a
seem to have
couple
given
little
up after
things.
that.
Yeah, it's just before that it was like oh, you can only fire so many shots. Like, well, who cares? That
Yeah,
kind of stuff. I don't even know what the hell the rating system is now. Um,
it's not good. It's basically just boils down to do not get spotted, do not kill non-targets, have no bodies found, and that's
so
everything there is to it.
we've already talked about like kind of your history in speedrunning and stuff. This is gonna be more of like a general question. Um, how do you feel about the streaming community now? Like, well, maybe not the community so much, but just kind of how streaming's kind of come up. Because I know you've been a big streamer from the start, like in terms of Twitch. Just kind of how that's played out a role and stuff.
You mean in terms of Hitman?
Just any kind of just general streaming, I guess, but even Hitman specifically.
Then again, it's in either case, I'm probably the wrong person to talk about that because I don't really watch many streams. I watch a lot of streams, but I'm very picky about what I watch.
Hmm.
And even then, I when I watch those streams, I rarely participate in chats or anything like that.
Oh yeah.
And in my own stream, I don't exactly care about what's going on. I don't try to maintain any sort of following. Whatever happens, happens. I don't care.
I was just wondering because you're like one of the first people I followed on Twitch for a long time
Yeah,
ago.
I don't take the whole thing very seriously.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else you really want to talk about specifically, just about Hitman? I guess.
Actually, just opened up the AMA summary,
Hmm.
see if there's anything that sticks out. And actually, yeah, that we'll say that I am actually looking forward to the ghost mode a fair bit.
Yeah,
That,
that mode seems cool, but I kind of wish it was more like real time instead of a ghost.
yeah, but I'm no expert in network programming, but I can see there being a whole load of issues trying to in real time manage all those NPCs.
Hmm.
So, well, while there is some stuff that is done server side, there is still a whole bunch of shit that is obviously done locally, and trying to sync those things up is just it seems
Hey
like a
man,
nightmare. But it's nice to see that they're taking some steps toward that with co-op and ghost mode. So maybe one day we'll have proper co-op.
that'll be the day. How do you feel about the sniper assassin mode?
Oh, I made a whole video on the sniper assassin, and I do not like it.
I figured as much. I
The,
don't really understand those little like mobile games they come out with.
oh, you mean the mobile game?
Well,
Or the,
I think the sniper assassin is just a mobile game.
I mean, there's Hitman Sniper, which is a mobile game,
That one, yeah,
which I tried, and it controls really poorly because it's a mobile game. And then there's the Sniper Assassin pre-order bonus for Hitman 2, which I don't
yeah.
like because every single challenge is boring, and you have to do the challenges in order to get a better sniper rifle, so you can try something actually interesting. And even then, I doubt you can do that much interesting, considering how limited it is. But yeah, I wasn't a fan. I doubt I'll be playing that a whole lot when the mode gets expanded.
Was there anything else in the AMA you wanted to talk about specifically?
Just eyeballing it through. Don't think there's a whole lot they could talk about in that.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
when they announced the AMA, I was like, huh. I guess I don't really have any questions anymore. I know what I'm getting.
pretty much. I mean, it's just we're just kind of waiting for the game to come out, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's a couple days before it launches. They just announced preloading available on PS4. So I guess everybody's happy about that. And apparently, Steam preload still can't. It's not going to happen.
yeah. Actually,
Oh,
judging by their tweets and AMA responses, what I gathered was that, talking my local time, like consoles would release at like 7 a.m.
hmm.
and Steam release would be like 8 p.m. Like, well, I don't have any plans for Friday. I was hoping I could maybe play the game, but yes, that's a no.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I'm really kind of annoyed with, at least. But I think there's probably a reason for that that can't uh IO can't really tell us why, or it might be just a Steam thing. But
Probably.
yeah, I think that's pretty much a good interview. I guess we can wrap up here. I don't know if there's anything else you just want to talk about in general.
Nothing comes to mind at this moment.
Alrighty, well, I guess I'll just have to thank you for agreeing to do an interview on such short notice. I know.
No, no problem. Thank you for
I know
having me.
you. I know you're going to be busy this weekend, probably going to concerts or something. You tweeted out.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting ready to take off a week vacation, get a new job interview tomorrow. So
Oh, good luck.
hopefully I'll be. Yep, thank you. Hopefully I'll be getting a more pay. But other than that, I guess we'll just sign off. I don't know when our next podcast will be, if we're going to be interviewing anybody. You know, we'll we'll try it out and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to use the call sign we used last time. I'm just going to cut it off. Just say, have a blessed day. Bye bye.